Hey there, this is JFC. I'm going to be posting some Sword of Convallaria videos. Thanks for taking a peek and watching. Basically today what I'm going to do is start a series of spirals of Destiny so that you can see how I play through it, and it's going to be somewhat informative. I'll kind of let the story play out while I'm doing the playthrough, so it's going to be a little slow. Normally I would skip the text. And then I'll give a couple of tips on getting through spirals rather quickly, because you do have to kind of grind through several series of sections to get the luck site that you want or items. So I'll give a brief overview of a few things here. First things first, we will take a look at the gameplay, how I'm going to approach it, and we'll also look at my aid I use, which is an Excel sheet. And if people want to share, you're welcome to leave a comment. I can always do a Google Sheet real quick because I have my own Excel page that I use. But basically, I keep track of things on the spirals page. It's very important because the game doesn't always track everything for you. It'll track it through Destiny traces. So you can see a bunch of different medals that you can get, and as you get these medals in general, you can get luck site if you achieve them. So there are certain ones that are harder, there are certain ones that are easier to get, and it's good to have a tracking system when you go into the game, because again, it doesn't always tell you. So example, the turrets that you pick when you start your Destiny's playthrough, it's not going to keep track of which ones you picked, so you have to. And unfortunately, before I started, so I'm kind of doing this because there was a few things that I did not do, so it's a little disorganized. Well, as you'll see when you take a look at the sheet, I don't know which turrets I used. I used 12, apparently, of different ones, but I don't remember. The last two I started keeping track was the tower and the moon. Those are the only ones that I know. Another good way to do this if you weren't keeping track, because the game doesn't tell you anywhere, is to just think about some of the bonuses that you see underneath, because sometimes I would always pick the best bonus that I'm going to get for that playthrough. But yeah, as you level these up, you get varying amounts of luck site. Typically it goes 30 and then 50 and then 100 when you get through it and you're done. Some of these you may get, you may not get if you're an achievement hunter. I'm just doing it for the luck site because I'm at the end game part of my account, and a lot of times there aren't events for me to grind luck site, so I try to get as much as I can. So as you can see, I wasn't really paying attention to how many times I made people fall off the ledge, so I'm very behind. Even though I've done 15 playthroughs, I only have 9 out of 10 for this, so I will be keeping track of those as we go through. So 1 second here. Alright, I think we're good. Yeah, we're unpaused here. So here you can see I keep track of the game on a separate spreadsheet along with several other things that I have listed on this sheet, some books and other stuff. But on this specifically, you can see the characters. I have their items listed. Not that that's really relevant for spirals. I also have a tier list that I just kind of keep up to date as I see new ones come out. But here's the spiral list that I have. Each playthrough has different things that you can or can't do with it. Some things I'm missing, some things I'm not. The bigger ones are kind of getting the events during your playthrough. You'll get a lot of luck site for that. Cutscenes, you'll get a lot of luck site for that, besides just the achievements themselves. And there's certain things that you need to keep track of. For example, in the Palpable States playthrough, you need to get 15 Palpable State people recruited. So you can see I haven't done that, even though I've done several playthroughs. I got kind of unlucky on my recruiting rotation. So it's just something I need to do. You can also see I missed a specific trial in the Union playthrough that I need to do and finish. You can see I did finish Ira. The last thing I needed to do is beat the tournament. And when it comes to the merchant section, I did not get trade pack 4 because you have to buy the info, but you don't share with Sam and you leak it instead, which I didn't do when I was doing my endings and collecting those, because the first thing you're going to do is basically try to get the endings. Then you're probably going to try to get the achievements, because as you get the augment slots opened up and the other slots opened up as you play through spirals, which we'll take a look at in a second, it makes things easier. You get more funds, more resources, more recruitment opportunities, and things like that that make these achievements much easier to obtain. You can see on my playthrough, the first thing I do is I go look through the medals that I want to achieve. I have those listed here, and as I do my playthrough, each time I think that I've achieved that thing, I stop and I record it. So say that I had one round where I didn't have any damage taken, I'll go ahead and I will add that on here. Then once they finally are done, I will turn them red so that I am aware that that is done and I do not have to worry about doing this anymore on the playthrough. The two first ones that you should really pay attention to are the 10 no damage taken maps and the 30 no units lost. Once those are done, it doesn't really matter. You can throw your units in there. One thing I always do, and again we'll get to the augments and stuff when I start the run, is I always take the no stamina lost on death augment, because you will have people die. The game will do that to you, and as nice as the backtracks are, because you can actually get extra backtracks with your slots, to play quickly through the actual grindy part of it, you don't want to die and have to backtrack a bunch. So you can also see I keep track of my augments, which I did not keep track of whenever I started. So the ones that I have done so far are listed down there. Once the achievement is finished, you no longer have to worry about it. So one thing that you probably don't see on here is there's an achievement for the number of people that you take into Sword. Again, that would be on my list typically, but because I went ahead and did that, this is an example of a completely finished medal that I have, is bid farewell to 30 different characters. So the way I was keeping track of that on my sheet was I would just list out every SSR I had and every epic unit that I was going to use. Sometimes I would throw in less than an epic unit, but I typically didn't because I don't have them leveled. I focused mostly on the SSR characters and the epic units, and then I would color them red so I'd know which ones that I used. That you actually can keep track of if you're looking to see that. You can go back here and go to the little journal symbol. Not the little journal symbol. Let's see. What's this? Yeah. So the little flower symbol has a recollections page, and on that you got your different cycles. So if you want to take a look at the cycles, you can see like the story and stuff, but that's not really what I care about whenever I do it. So I'll skip that part. If you hit left, I use a controller when I play through, but if you hit left and right, or you go down and press the little dots, it will skip through. Once you get to this page, it's going to list the main units that you used. Just keep in mind that you might have used, let's say, Hope, that they provide you a character named Hope, or they provide you a character like Divine Grace, or they provide you one of those characters during the round and you use them a lot. I'm pretty sure that they pop up here. It's not just the characters that you used in your playthrough, because there are some I used that I just didn't use at all. They just weren't as useful as I thought they would be when I took them into the actual spiral cycle. So this is how I kept track of the characters here for that. It also gives you which events you did, but I mean, you're keeping track of those with medals, so you really don't have to worry about those as much. But it keeps all your playthroughs. I think it's up to 20 playthroughs, if I remember correctly. You can see what you did, how many you did, and which characters you took with you. Again, same thing, you can skip the ending. Right here, it's going to show you I used Beryl, Simona, Feycow, Mytha, and Hope on this playthrough. Again, you are provided Mytha and Feycow if you use them a lot and you didn't take them. I don't know if that counts or not. I didn't have a chance to test that. I assume that it counts those characters if you provided those in the slots when you go in there. So I know this is a lot of exposition at the very beginning of this. We're probably going to do an hour at a time as we do playthroughs. So bear with me here, because I'm going to be yapping a lot, trying to help you guys out and keeping track of stuff, because it is a lot of Luxite that you can get out of this, and it's worth doing. The other thing I didn't mention here is that as you complete your playthroughs and you complete your chapters, you will get experience that will increase your level up to 200. And during that time period, and a lot of people don't know this if they haven't really looked at spirals, is you get a bunch of stuff as you level up. It gets harder to level up as you go through, but here's Luxite and a ton of experience. They give you medals, they give you turrets, they give you essence, star particles, powder. The gear is probably really important. I've gotten and completed a lot of gear by going through this and doing this, because it's just the repeated cycle. Every 5, 6 it changes, and it's a repeated pattern over and over again, as you can see. As you keep going on, you can see the rewards. They do increase to a certain point, but then they kind of stop like 160k coins at random stars, random XP, that kind of stuff. You can see the point I'm making. So once you get to 200, it does stop. And obviously, if you like spirals, you can keep playing, but at that point, You're not going to be able to get much of the Luxite unless you're completing metals, unless you're completing remembrances. A lot of this is Night Crimson stuff that hasn't come out yet, so I kind of ignore those. But as you can see, if you don't have the Barrels Treasure Hunt section, it is a 25% chance of popping up during your run, is my understanding. Some of the harder ones are what I'll discuss here, but I have never received this in the number I've played. I think I've done 16 or 17 playthroughs. I've never seen Barrels Treasure Hunt, and I did do the extra side stuff in Ira where you pay the extra red Luxite, and it just gave me the pathfinding game again. So you do get another chance to encounter it on the Ira section. So if you want to get this one, I'm just going to skip it because eventually one day it will give me the treasure hunt for Beryl. Basically, you go up to the resting area where she is, and she'll tell you what type of game it is, because you can see pathfinding chest, guessing game. If you're having trouble procking any of those, it's just a random 25% chance, is my understanding. If there's anything that this is based on research that I've done around the internet. There are some guides, but not everything's 100% proof. There are still a lot of questions I have about things in this game that I've had to try to test through all of my runs. But you can see a lot of the rest of this stuff here. This is how I know I don't have the trial rescue of the captives, which is listed on the Union section. I had to look that up. And you have to do catching fish in a jar, and then you have to do rescue of the captives. I think when I did my Union playthroughs, it was the first ones because it was at the top. I'm kind of OCD. You have to complete things from the top to the bottom. So I didn't have a lot of augments and things, and this trial was rather hard, so I didn't do it. That's why it's missing, and why I have to do a Union run. But yeah, you can see the rest of these are mostly completed. This one is a good example. I have 15 mercenaries of the Papal States. I've done that on the others. I just didn't get lucky in my playthroughs for those. So performance is pretty easy too. It's most of your cutscenes and everything else. I know I'm missing things because it will tell you for the most part. Sometimes it doesn't. As an example, this has no title. It just shows the details. This is Trade Pack 4. I know that because I had to look it up because there are a lot of people missing it, because a lot of people are just doing the ending where they actually give Sam the information. They don't just leak it because it gives you a separate ending. You wouldn't know that unless you have to look it up. But pretty much everything else that's listed here is here and is completed. So as you go through, that's pretty much the spiral system in collecting things. You can't take any items with you, but you can take up to 5 people once you've unlocked the augment slots. So we're going to take a look at that. I'm going to start the run here, and I wanted to just say on here, you'll see my 25 equipment forge. This is extraordinarily difficult even if you have a lot of the slots opened up for Spiral, in my opinion, because sometimes, because it's a roguelike, sometimes you just don't get the reduction of weeks for forging. And 3 weeks at a time forging something on a 55-week playthrough, mathematically that's not going to work for you. So you have to watch out for those runs where you actually are given the forging stuff if you want to get this metal. For me, I'm just going to get 2 times because I would do this on the Union playthroughs because some of the routes make these easier, and that's how I'm going to deal with it. Something else that I might recommend too is starting at the very beginning beacon, because you can enter a beacon from different points in the story. The beginning beacon, I think, is how I would typically do the equipment forge stuff because it gives you more weeks. Because if you pick the further beacons, I think it starts at 10 weeks and the other one starts at 20. Once you're at 20 weeks, you've only got 30 some weeks to go, and 30 versus 25, you get the idea. So if it gives you the equipment stuff, cool, but you can't go back and you can't redo any of them once you get them. So you kind of have to do your playthrough, and keys are a limited resource. I'm going to talk about that in a second too, so we're getting there. Radiant rank, a lot of people had questions on this online as well. The biggest thing for me, I've tried Beacon from day 1, I've tried Beacon from day 10, or week 10, and I've tried Beacon from week 20. The week 20 Beacon is the easiest way to get Radiant because it gives you 200 into your rank, I think towards gold, if I remember correctly. After that, it's very easy. I was on the Ivor route, which is the shortest route of all of them, and it was so easy to get Radiant. I got it like week 48, or before that, and I think I had to skip a couple of weeks when I was doing it, so... But, yeah, there you go for that. Barrel quests, same thing, you just do them. Do the crappy barrel quests too, they give you like 60 Luxite shards. Nobody really likes doing them, but you get your 20 done and it's done. The other way you can check if you have the achievement done, sometimes it doesn't display the achievement at the top unless you've gotten to the end marker. What I mean is, like, once you've gotten 20 out of 20, it will display it, so that's how you know. But you're not going to know that otherwise. So a lot of times I will go out of spirals and I will go check to see if I actually achieve this thing when it's done. And we'll do that when we get there. I know it's a lot to try to keep track of this, but if you care about the achievements, this will make you a little less crazy in having to keep track of these things. But you will see this tick up in that screen. So it'll say 16 out of 20 once I achieved it on this run. And I'll kind of linger on this page if people want to see it for a minute. And we'll go back to sword. Okay, so keys real quick. So on the calendar rotation, you'll get free keys. It's pretty much this part of the calendar that you get them. Sometimes you get them out of the little surprise gratitude poppers. Sometimes you get them from events that come up. Right now, there aren't a lot of events that provide keys because there's nothing related to spirals. And if there was, yeah, it looks like it's gone now, right? Yeah, I've already completed the quests for everything, so it's not going to give me keys and whatnot. Each week you do get 2 keys from the shop as well. Go down to it, you can see that I did pick up those keys there for that. So each week you get about 4 keys. That allows you to do at least most of a run. If you want to spend Luxite on the keys, you can. I prefer to save that for pulls. Sometimes I get a little antsy and I pull on things that I shouldn't, so it just gives me the freedom if I save my Luxite to spend it on what I want. So in that regard, we're going to go into Spiral of Destinies. So, Spiral of Destinies, to start off, right now they have the event for Night Crimson, which they'll add extra stuff eventually. We are not doing that. We're doing the regular Spiral. When you consume a key, it will consume the one that has the least amount of time remaining, which is nice. So we will start that then. Let's talk about Astral Path. So we have to talk about some of that stuff quick, and then you'll start seeing gameplay in the other segments. You can see I've unlocked a lot of this path in general. There are certain things that I highly recommend that you try to get first to unlock. Here's a great example of one. This one right here is 5,000 additional funds when you start Spiral. This makes your life so much easier because, I mean, you're going to be jamming out missions, you're going to be jamming out extra activities that get you money on the side. But this is really helpful because it gets you the extra 5,000. So let me see where the other parts are too. I unlocked few pieces. Gain additional backtrack attempts. This is another one that I would probably unlock. Typically when I started, I kind of started up here. You can see gain additional backtrack attempts. 5% for all units. There are some good ones here. You get 10,000. So on your first playthrough, you're going to get about 10 of these to unlock. You'll probably get some extra backtracks. And you might get down here for that, for your augments and whatnot. You can pick up some of these. I've kind of skipped some of them. So as an example, I didn't want more timber, so I didn't need it. So I just didn't get those, and I skipped and kept going. I wanted to unlock each of these because I wanted to see what in the world each of the stuff was. There are certain things you can get to, like unlocking a caravan escort summon event. Basically, a person will be standing there that will give you resources during your actual playthrough. That makes things way nicer. So if you want to go up this route, you can. If you want to come down here, that's what I did. So sometimes you can unlock permanent stuff, so this is an additional 200 funds that I start with in a cycle. There's gaining an additional character slot. Personally, I think you should probably go down the bottom, up and around. There's no reason to go up through these 2 trails, and I don't think it lets you do that anyway, if I remember correctly, but I'd have to think back to when I started. So yeah, get an additional character slot. I believe you can get up to 5, which is nice, bringing your own characters. Gain an additional augment slot when starting a new cycle. You can see a lot of these really big ones are the ones that you want to get to as you go through. Gain additional character slot. Gain additional augment slot. Another augment slot. And then sometimes you come up, like this node is kind of eh. Sometimes if you're forging stuff, gain a 20% chance to return a small portion of the materials used when forging. This is probably very good if you're trying to do the achievement for forging. So now that you get a chance here, you can kind of see all the stuff unlocked, which is nice. Sometimes not the best. Accidents are more likely to occur during Barrel's researches in the Luxite shop. I don't take that. Increases the damage dealt by all allied unit 10% if you're taking Momo. That's a recommendation I have. If you have Momo, and you find spirals to be hard, especially in the early runs that you have, I would always take Momo with you, because once Momo hits level 60, and she has Doom Waken, and she has any of the other things that you're going to put on there, she basically can clear a map by herself. So if you need to save stamina, put people in rest slots, you didn't get lucky and you don't get extra rest percent, Momo makes things very easy. So pretty much I'd always take her, unless you're comfortable going through the playthrough where you don't need to have her. She clears the tournament very easily up until the last round of the Ira tournament. She clears most bosses. She clears most things. The game kind of gives you items for her too, now I'm thinking about it. As you unlock these things, you get specifically things for alert and strike back in your playthroughs. I think all 3 playthroughs have those. Maybe not the merchant one. So I use her for that. Keeping track of your augments and buffs that you use, that's why it's important, because it doesn't tell you in here. I had no idea what I would actually be able to use or not use. I also don't know if enhanced augments count as different augments. We're going to figure that out today, because I am going to take this one, which I just unlocked, where you get 2 random legendary weapons. You also, starting with 30 additional Luxite dust, I'll probably pop those 2, and one that I know is absolutely one I haven't taken before, which I believe is... trying to remember which ones. It's probably this one. Increase the damage dealt outside by all units, and I will be taking Momo in this run probably. Once you've gotten the medal for the different types of characters that you've used in Spirals, it's much easier because you can make a team that's pretty reliable in general. And I'll show you some of the strategies that I use to go through it. 2 additional Radiant Luxite. I think I already did that one. Is there one up here that's Radiant Luxite? This is Luxite Dust. So we're going to take Luxite Dust. We're going to take the 2 random legendary weapons. We're going to take the no stamina on death. And we're going to take the additional 5,000 funds. I believe that leaves one more slot where it increases the damage dealt by allied units by 10% when outside their turn. Probably what I'm going to take too. That way I can get my augment. I can get my augment medal. So you'll see a lot of those augments are going to finish up this time. I have a lot of 9 out of 10s or a lot of 14 out of 15s. So I need to focus on them. But that's the Astral Path, what it looks like. You also have the Voyage Map if you haven't done endings. There are 3 endings for each path, except for the Palpal States, which is 2. A long time ago I watched a streamer that recommended not playing Palpal in your first playthrough. And that is because the Palpal States route is difficult. There's a lot of units. There's a lot of ranged magic casting units. There's a lot of harder battles in that segment. There's a ton of battles, actually. I believe that it's very easy to get Radiant on that path. Even not having the 20 beacon at the beginning, because you get so many battles that give you so many points. We'll go over the point system for Radiant too. There are some things online that are true and aren't true based on my research, so I wanted to clear those up in here. So the bad ending obviously will be one of the first ones you get. You literally just ignore the dark light and your town explodes. As you can see, I've unlocked all the endings for that, including the merchant route, and then I've also already done Crimson as well, which I do recommend doing this story. I thought it was a very good story. I think the regular stories are very good too. If you like to get invested in characters and you enjoy stories, I highly recommend this mode. There are some characters that you'll get very attached to, and the writing is very mature and very adult, and that's why they give you a warning whenever you start that, because there are some tragedies and there's some happy times, so which usually makes up a good story. Talk about beacons, since we're going down the list. Here's all the beacons that you can get. As an example, the day you become leader, the day you accompany Samantha as an example, the day you become leader requesting the king's aid, the day you meet Dantalion. These will be Trademaster. These different ones will put you at different parts in each of the weeks. They will give you things equal to the amount of weeks that you started at. So don't think just because of the Dantalian one, as an example, that you're not going to be able to make up the other additional 10 weeks. It is 100 times worth doing this if you want to get Radiant, as an example. We will be doing the Union playthrough, so more than likely we will be playing the one with Gloria. So remember, you have to pay attention to this. The day you become the leader and getting reinforcements from the Order will be easier versus the day Glory arrives. You want the day Glory arrives if you want to do Radiant in that cycle. So you also get this after you do your first playthrough, so you will do some playthroughs where it's kind of a throwaway playthrough, you're just getting through it to get the bad ending so that you can get all the endings unlocked. Those are pretty easy. And again, this is very grindy, so I'll show you how to start and kind of go quickly through stuff. So, alright, so I have 1 day left on this key. So it will prioritize the one that's left with 1 day. So we'll go ahead and start. I'm going to keep my eye on the time because these are hour-long segments. So I'm not going to read through a lot of the text because there is a lot to read. If you'd like to stop the video and read the text, if you're watching the playthrough, you're welcome to do so. Or you can leave a comment if you want me to do something different. As I do this, it's pretty much my first real playthrough through something besides Tales that's on my account. So, alright, so first things first, we're going to look at a beacon. So on my sheet, I want to do the Union playthrough, and I want to do the trial catching fish in a jar, and I specifically want to finish equipping, doing 25 equipment forging, so that I can get to the 2 and then I'm done with this, because I don't want to go 20 deep into equipment forging. It's not worth it to me, in my opinion. I would try to hit it if I played through Spirals, but I wouldn't worry about it in the future because you'll probably play through it many, many more times. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. So, we're looking through. We don't want to do Palpal. We don't want to do Dant. We're not doing the Trademaster route. The day Gloria arrives. So we will use the Gloria Arrives beacon, which will put us, I believe, at week 20 in the Union playthrough, and we will be trying for Radiant, so I will be as sweaty as possible to get the Radiant rank. When we get there, I'll explain some of that stuff too. Alright, so we're on the Augments section, so we've got 5. Again, we talked about which ones we were going to use. All units don't incur a stamina penalty for dying in battle. Absolutely equip this, because randomly they will die, or the computer will kill you sometimes. And it drains your stamina when you die, so no thank you. No, we don't want that. And a lot of these we've already used. Again, I'm looking at the list of things that I've done. We always want to start with 5,000 additional funds, unless you are confident that you can make that money. The training and things are much easier for you to focus on. Selling items, I believe, I already did. See, I really wasn't keeping track of it either. Sometimes I forget to keep track of things as I'm going through. Outside the turn, I believe, is brand new. Careful when you're equipping these, they do change unless you move it. 2 additional Radiant Luxite I've already done. Additional 40. 2 random legendary weapons I believe is brand new. I think this counts as a brand new one, but we will find out. Accidents are more likely to occur. Secret units. The Luxite Dust was the other one I believe we planned to try to get the new ones. Okay, so that's going to be our 5 for what we're going to do. Now, if you ever make a mistake, or you need to go back, I'm going to show you, and it might be a little slow here for newer Spiral people. You can go back, and you can remake your choices until you start. Once you make your choices, you are locked in. So, I will be going back to Destiny Traces a lot to look through this, because this is the only way that you can keep track of this stuff. So, going to the Augments section, which I don't even... So we need one more augment to hit the final one. Okay. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't multiple that you need to hit it, because again, I wasn't keeping track when I first did probably my first 5 to 10 playthroughs. I really wasn't aware or keeping track of it. I was just worried on the ending. I was just worried about the endings. Okay. Alright, back here, you can see, okay, so when you get back to this section, it did take those augments away, so let me just check the beacon. Okay, we're still on the day Glory arrives, which is correct for the Union playthrough. I'm going to speed up a little bit here. Where are the funds? 2 random legendary weapons. 30 additional Luxite. Where are funds? Funds. Yep. And then 10 outside your turn, right? Wherever that is. I think it's here. Outside their turn. Great. Alright, so we've got our 5 augments. Good there, they're locked in. Now we gotta pick our 5 characters. Now I typically use the same units now that I don't have to select a variety of them. It will automatically select for you, so make sure that you go through and you deselect. One thing I wanted to mention on the screen is it will take the abilities that you have on the character, but it will not take your equipment along with you. So a lot of these characters, I make sure that I have the correct percent and the correct abilities on, so that I make sure they're taken. It will also take your stars, so if you have 5-star units, it will have 5 stars when you take the unit into the actual Spirals event. I just recently got Layla. I kind of wanted to use her with Momo. 2 alert characters is kind of a lot, though. So maybe we use Layla and not Momo. If you have Tyre, absolutely take Tyre. He makes things much easier. I like to take Gloria with me because she's good at buffing, just like Tyre is. I'm going to take Tristan because I want to have a Destroyer in a mix with other units. I think I wanted to take Homa because a lot of times when you do Spirals playthroughs, sometimes when the randomly assigned units are given to you, a lot of the units are kind of varied. You got your Seekers and your Breakers and your Defenders, but sometimes you get hard stuck not having a lot of Breakers or a lot of Seekers. So you will always have Mytha, you will always have Fake Out, so you always have a Watcher and a Defender, but sometimes they don't really go with the Seekers a lot. Layla does technically buff. So you want to kind of have a general idea of when you build something. So I'll give you an example of what this really is. Layla buffs, Tyre buffs, Homa buffs, and Gloria buffs, and Tristan does damage. Why do I care about that? Because when I go through this playthrough, we're going to talk about the abilities that you can use during the battle. I don't want to say summoner abilities, but this is pretty much what I think I'm going to do with my playthrough. So Tyre's going to go first. He's going to buff Tristan. These all really can't buff her, but maybe we can buff Layla. You can also do Raria here. Because looking at this spread, you have a Seeker, you have a Destroyer, you have a Watcher, you have a Breaker, and you have a Watcher. Watchers don't have a lot of weaknesses, and these 2 will take care of the opposing green or red units. And Tristan doesn't really have a weakness other than Watchers. She can't die anyway when she uses her pendant, so I also really like using young Raria. Raria can clear maps by herself, just like Momo and Layla can, because Layla has alerts, Momo has alerts, and Raria has a lot of AoE damage. Yeah, I think we're going to go with Layla. No, we're going to go Raria. Another thing that I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about picking teams is Seekers tend to have a greater movement range. So if you need to move very far in a map, and this one is Union, so you will have maps with August where you have to defeat him, and you have to move very far, she can move very far. I think that's what we're going to do. So there's 2 characters to buff, and a lot of the rest of them are buffers. Gloria can really kind of fight on her own as well. You can see the abilities that were picked. So you hit start, it will lock in what you want. They always give you a turret. Now on this one, I've done the tower and the moon, both of which aren't selected on here. You can see the tower, 2 energy after strike back, dodge, or block. Honestly, this one's really good. If you don't care about turrets, this one's really good for what we picked because we have dodges and blocks. If we had Momo or we had Layla, you'd have strike backs. It's really like helps with Mytha, it helps with anybody that blocks stuff. If you use Coco, if you use dodges with Safia, it's a good idea. I don't think that I've picked this one before. I'm pretty sure I've done the world before, because looking at these 3, based on the characters that I've picked, this is kind of useless for your own team. Because you're really not going to be healing other than Homa. This is overall the better pick out of these 3 because you get an attack and defense increase by 3. I probably would have likely picked this one in the past because I think the buffs are the same based on this. So we will go with the Hermit and we will update. Color it red, and we are good to go. Yep, Crystal Guardianship. So there you go. I'll let the cutscenes and stuff play, because if people are watching this for playthroughs, you can see it. I thought they did a very good job on the animated cutscenes in general. I wish that there were a little bit more, but I'm sure that they'll have a few more coming out if it's anything like the Raria and Safia storyline in Night Crimson. Okay, this is your typical week view. First tip when we go through this is you can skip the week rollover by just hitting the circle button or whatever the equivalent is on the keyboard. You can just mash through that, and when it comes to having to pick things like forging or your abilities that you get by doing trainings, you do have to go in to pick those up if you skip through this section. I always skip through this section. It's much faster. I don't want to see how much gold I earned. I don't want to see any of that. You can kind of estimate how much gold you're making when you do your playthrough because there is a emblem for 10k coins. So just keep that in mind. I try to keep track of that the best that I can, but honestly, you earn stuff so quickly, I'm not really going to be slow about that when I go through. So, but here's your dispatch. You can see barrel stuff, use strength potions, so we will have a barrel quest to do. Here are 2 randoms that we got. Titan's Hammer, which is very good. Increases attack by that. Losing HP, that's probably going to go on Young Raria. Increases healing effect on dying targets by 30. After the healing, the target gains regeneration. Probably going to put that on Tiger. So very good random legendaries to acquire. I assume that that was the augment medal that I got. So, and again, I'm not going to read the text through these things. I've seen this text many, many times. I will let it play through. Any non-important conversations I will probably skip through, because you will have a bunch of non-important conversations. So we got a contract with the Union.
Mikata? So...
なんでそんなこと言うのよ。騎士連合の助けがなかったら闇の光とのたくさんの人々の血が流れて。
助けなんかなくても大体あいつらがきっと何か企んで。
陰謀ってどんな？
いや、 まあとにかく俺はよ。
でも団長だ。
あの人はくそ、もういい。とにかく
私は団長の判断に従うもん。
Sorry, I was setting up sus there. I will be quiet during cutscenes or voice sections, since this is a regular playthrough. Okay, so when selecting a lot of these rewards, it is roguelike, so it will give you a series of 3, 2, or 1 selections that you can make based on what you want. I can already see what I want in general, but since I already got 15 union members recruited, I don't need to worry about these two because I know what they are. Refresh weeks for recruitment, refresh weeks for recruitment. So this would be something I would want to see on my Palpable States playthrough, because I'd want these refresh weeks to cycle through so that I can maybe pick up more Palpable States people. But we talked about the union and being able to forge things, so custom forging weeks -1, absolutely, because we're going to be doing that emblem. The Mercenary Guild. So we finally got to that part. The Mercenary Guild periodically will give you updated resources depending on your rank. When you do the 20 weeks playthrough, it will give you a lot of stuff. So, example, here's your weapon. Thinking about who we have, we already had a good axe / hammer come through, so we probably don't need that. Thinking about who we picked. Probably sharp spear. Because Tyre's not going to do AoE damage. So probably for Gloria. Rare trinkets. I usually go with gold bangle because the stat spread is very good. If you have a tank, it's probably better to pick armored, but I don't really have any tanky people, and I'm not really worried about magic damage in general. So gold bangle is usually your best bet if you're picking something. We also got XP training acquisition increased by 15. That's good. I'll explain the XP part here in a little bit. Production of forging materials. So that's when you're making ingots. You will get increased amount of ingots when you do it. Production of forging materials, another 10. Okay, well, it really wants you to forge, I see. Okay, we had the signature rye beer, and a lot of other changes and things. A lot of it's just really going to impact. There's your funds earned. So, looking at the way this looks when we set it up, we have our team of people. Of those, you always get a Mytha, you always get a Fake Owl. Sometimes you get randomly assigned units. This time we've had a union unit named Jessica, and you can see this is pretty much standard. These guys pretty much come most of the time. They give you a mix. You've got a green, red, and blue unit. You've got Watchers and Destroyers, so they don't start you off with nothing. They at least give you a healer if you don't have one. Typically when I do my playthroughs, I'll take 5 people now that I have 5 slots, and I'll usually rotate a 6th person if I don't get a lot of resting plus. Because when you rest people, when you battle, you'll get stamina loss. Each character has 100% stamina, you can see at the top. You can't spam these characters every single map because eventually they'll hit 0 or they'll be so low that it's not going to let you use them in the battles. So you have to plan out your stamina loss too. And normally I'll rotate a 6th character that I was provided in here. More than likely, probably do Jessica here, but honestly, she's not really that great. What's listed here? Thinking about my spread, honestly, I mean, Defender might just have to be Mytha that rotates in. a lot of times I'll use Mytha just to soak up stamina loss. So a lot of these other characters you're going to be putting on dispatch quests to make sure that those are completed. So we finished our augments section, so I'm going to show you how to go back and how to look at other things. So over here on the left side where the moon is, you can see what augments you currently are using and what characters you picked. You can also pick Remembrance. That Remembrance will let you look at all of the various ones that are listed here. So we know that we need to do Trial Rescue of the Captives. We need to make sure that Catching Fish in a Jar is done. I believe this is both quests for Xavier. I'm not sure why I never did this. It might have just been too hard for me to do at the time. Another fun thing on a Union playthrough is Old Soldiers Never Die. There's a dude that basically goes into a mine with you, and he ends up dying on the right side of the screen unless you do everything in your power to go get him. I finally saved him on my last Union playthrough. But it is hard to get over to him unless you have certain tactics. We'll talk about tactics when we get to Barrel. Certain ones that you want to unlock. Most people will tell you that you want your Thunderstruck ability. That does make things easier, but unfortunately, because it's a roguelike, you may not get it when it unlocks. So I'll show you another setup that I frequently get that's very, very good with the characters that I picked and why I picked them. As you can see, this is another reason we picked the beacon. That beacon gave us 200 score towards gold, which I'm pretty sure that's more than you can get when you're in the bronze and silver section of your playthroughs before week 20. I think this really just boosts you up fast enough to get to Radiant. So getting to Radiant, how does this increase? There's a lot of information online about how this works. I think it's beacon dependent, because when I did my Ira playthrough, the numbers on each type of difficulty of map that I did ended up being different than when I used the beacon for 10 weeks. Typically when you use the beacon for 10 weeks, you get 7 for a hard map, 10 for danger, and 13 for despair. And that's always the same. It doesn't matter how many enemies you kill. I could teleport right behind the enemy, kill just the boss on that map, and it would give me 13 on a despair map. As for the difficulty of the maps themselves, it's related to your mercenary rank. It's related to the level of each of your units. I will only be using 6 units, so the level that you go up will go up faster than if you were to spread it out. I recommend only using about 6 or 7 units. You just have to learn how to manage your stamina properly when you play through. Alright, the other stuff, this right here does not equate to your score. You can add it up all you want. It will look close, but it is not what that is. So this will go up based on the battles you fight and the difficulty of those battles. If you want Radiant, you have to do the hardest battles you can find. You also have to think a couple of weeks ahead. So if you end up with 3 despair maps, you want to look at the number of weeks that are left on those, and you want to do them one at a time. Same as hard and same as danger. You may want to make sure that you might want to do a hard map before the danger map. If, like, say the hard map has 1 week and the danger has 2, you do the hard map and then the danger map, because maybe you won't get any difficulty after the danger map. I've had weeks where it's just common, and you get 3 points for common, and that kind of slows down your progress towards Radiant. So I'll stop yapping about that. You can change your settings here. We already talked about that. Going back to Elysium, you can do that. I typically will do this frequently in my playthrough. I won't do it as much besides this first time because I'm keeping track on my sheet. But Destiny Traces, you can see it's highlighted. Go down to the emblem that I got. I'm blind, clearly, and I missed it. Select the different augments. I got it. You claim your luck site. So it also says max level. The only other place that you can really do anything with this is in your profile at the top left. You can set your emblems. I just have ones that I've cleared already. So, alright, that's enough about that. We'll go back into spirals. We got a few minutes left. About 10, 11 minutes here. I'm going to make it about an hour each. But I would go in and out of this frequently to look at your emblems if you're hunting emblems. Alright, so you're going to do maintenance on your town. As you progress through the story up to this point, obviously we're at the 20 weeks, so we kind of going through most of the story before then. You get Haven, Town Square, Tavern, Forge, Training Grounds, Luxite, Workshop, Sanctuary. Each of these things is different. We'll go through each one. Starting with Haven, we'll go right to left. Haven is where you rest. Right now, we have 100%. If there's anybody in here that's less than 100%, stick them in here every week. You also have to plan out for your main force. You don't want to go into, let's say, the Radiant fight because you unlocked it without 2 of your main characters because they don't have stamina. You have to plan that part out. Another thing is if you pick that beacon, the beacon where you're meeting the character, Barrel's quest will appear immediately. I noticed that as well. So this is going to give you a chance to see if you can get that one of those 25% games. Maybe I'll get lucky, who knows. Oh my gosh, it's the treasure hunt minigame. I can't believe it. It finally procced. I have never seen this in 17 playthroughs. I don't think you need to think about it. It's definitely going to happen. Okay. Another thing about Beryl's stuff is as she progresses through the story, you have to pay her more. That's why the funds are really important to have lying around. Because without that, it's really detrimental if you're training things and doing stuff to try to pay Beryl almost, what was it, 1,000 and 3,000, 4,000 random spare funds just to do the game. Sometimes you don't want to do Beryl's game. It depends on what kind of emblems you're hunting. Other runs, I just ignore her because I don't need the extra Luxite to unlock the abilities. But sometimes there'll be people selling stuff in here. You're always going to be checking and always rotating through these things. Sometimes there's just a basic conversation. A lot of those I will skip. Any of the voice stuff I will play. So. And I do apologize if I repeat myself a lot. I'm just used to doing that to try to reinforce points. Alright, so we took a look at Haven, how it works. For the resting slot, you can see that you have 3 slots. Sometimes you can get extra slots. Sometimes you can get additional percentage on your rest, which is really important. If you see it, I usually pick that first if it's not something you're going for. So you get 30%, an extra 10%, and that makes it much easier to manage your units because they get more stamina on rest. So, okay. We talked about Haven, we talked about the leader's office. This is where you access your quests and whatnot. So you always have one quest that you can do a week, and you always have multiple dispatches based on the point of the story you're in. You can have up to 4 or 5 dispatches. I look for money. Depends on what you're doing. In this case, because we want to do the forging, you probably want to go for log work because timber's hard to come by if you don't have a ton of augments like I do. You can also see that starting at the 20th week, it gives you level 2 already, which is some of the other stuff that we skipped when we went past that. So for me, I'm probably going to put something on logging work, and I'm going to put something on escort the caravan. This is one of the reasons that the colors of your units come into play, because you can see the green and the blue. You need to have those. They are required, and they are also required to be at certain levels. So as an example, for this dispatch, I need to have a defender that's 15 or up. As you can see, the only one I have is Mytha. So keeping these levels of these people are important. We have Rex, so a lot of times Tamir and Rex are my really hard workers. They're the ones I typically send together to do these. So luckily it gave me level 16s to start these, which is nice. So I'll stick those 2 on there. And then I want my logging work. It's 2 people. You need a seeker. Luckily they give you one. You have Noah. And I'll stick Victor on there because I don't really need to worry about him. So there, I've went ahead and I've attached those people to my dispatch quests. Every 2 weeks those will complete. And using this wonderful spreadsheet, you do see that you have an emblem for 40 dispatches total. When you are in the 20-week cycle, you must complete dispatches every single week as fast as possible. Do not skip them. I remember my last playthrough, I was looking, and it was getting towards week 55, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to get 40 dispatches done here. And luckily, I think I just pulled over the 40 realm on it, but you've got to do it every week if you want to do the emblem. So, When it comes to battles, these are the danger types I was talking about. You've got common, you got easy, common, hard, danger, and despair. When you rank up your characters, it will give you an option to say, do you want to publicize the fact that your guild is a higher level? When you do that, it makes these harder, which is good if you're trying to get to the Radiant rank, because right now I should be picking these danger weeks. So, as an example, looking ahead, I want to do Barrel's Treasure Hunt because I need to get to the 3rd slot, right? And it's currently hard, so we know that's going to give us, 7 points? I think. We're going to test that because sometimes when you pick the 20-week beacon, I think it gives you an accelerated number. I think this gives you 8 points, not 7, and I think this might give you 12 points for danger, not 10. But if you use a regular beacon, it changes the point totals. So looking at the weeks and thinking ahead. This is 1 week, this is 2. Resource-wise, we probably should do danger if we're going for Radiant, and then we can do Barrel's Quest the following week. Because you want to make sure that you're hitting up all the ones that have the harder difficulty now. Otherwise, you may lose the opportunity to do so later. Again, you can only do 1 battle a week. Once that's done, it's done. There's nothing you can do about that. Sometimes there'll be urgent quests as the story progresses. Those will also give you points, but sometimes those points are inconsistent. I'll give you an example. On the Ira route, there are certain trials that will give you no points. That doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't understand why that is. But in testing it and going through it, some of those battles will not give you points when you expect them to based on the actual danger level. I have no idea why, but I have certain playthroughs and certain things where I picked trials and I just didn't get any points. And I was very irritated because I had 2 or 3 weeks in a row where I just wasn't given any points when I was trying to reach the Radiant rank. So it's something that you have to pay attention to when you do your playthroughs. It's not random, they just didn't give you the points for whatever reasons. Like they were artificially inflated in their danger and they didn't really exist in the system as that difficulty. It'd be like if you picked an easy map when it actually said despair, which, you know, games all have their flaws and things, so typically I would pick danger here. When I'm looking at a quest to pick, there are rewards offered and there are win conditions. Depending on how quick you want to go through, a lot of times I'll pick defeat the boss because you have to defeat one thing. Again, if we're going for Radiant, you do not have to beat every single character on the map. It will not change the amount of points that you receive for that. The only thing that matters is the difficulty. That's it. And people might dispute me on that, but I can tell you, I've tested it. I've killed everybody on the map. I've killed the boss on the map with the same type, with the same rating of difficulty, and the points always come out the same. What matters are the beacons. That's my assumption. That's why everybody gets confused, because there's a lot of things that aren't necessarily explained in the game. There's not a lot of things that say, do X and Y will happen. So, it's fun to test stuff. Looking at the rewards, I don't really need skills, because honestly, I'm going to build Mytha up, so maybe I can give her a rare skill instead of having her go through the skill training. We'll get to the training part in a second, and gold is always important. Now this, again, we know that we're going to be doing equipment forging in this particular playthrough. You're going to run out of dust. It's probably good to get the dust, and it's also probably good to get the blueprint. But we didn't get the -1 week on custom forging. Blueprints, I believe we got it on common or rare, so we'll have to take a look at that. But I'm not going to make that decision right now. There's a few things we have to look at first. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys so that I can prove to you that the score changes that way, because there's a lot of discourse about it online. We're going to look at the score each time we do a battle so we can see how that goes up. And we're going to track it on our sheet on the side. The other thing we're going to do is what I recommend doing for dispatches and for trainings. Only record them when they're done, because you will start to get very confused in having to manage all these things. Like, oh man, did I do 6 dispatches or did I do 8 dispatches now? Because I don't remember which one I did, because you're going to be going through this fast, because a lot of the weeks are very repetitive and you can flip your brain off. It's very easy. So once you complete something, that's when you track it. Do not track it preemptively ahead of time until it is completed when you rotate the weeks. So anyway. What we'll do right now, since we're at the leader's office, we have a bunch of different blueprints, which is good. You're going to need those if you're going to do the equipment forging. We have materials slots, you can see, and then you have gear. We have a lot of gold bangles. That's pretty lucky, considering. But we have a bunch of things to equip, so let's take a look at our units. Tristan, we don't care about her health. She's going to be exploding when she uses her pendant. So we're going to put Titan's Hammer on her. We don't care what her current HP is, because we're going to go and we're going to go. Looking at this, she's going to get more P attack from a gold bangle. That's what you want on her, so you put it on her. Rari is probably pretty similar. Put the gold bangle on, give her some P attack, and M attack. Homa's the same. You're going to be attacking with Homa. Go ahead and put that on. And she is a bow user, so that's nice, because then sometimes if you're not using Fey Cow, you really don't have a lot of ranged units in this unless you hire them, which we'll get to in a minute. Gloria, we don't need that, but we have a little pointy stick for her, so we're going to put that on. This isn't really that great of a spear. I'm glad we got the 8% P attack, because we don't really have a lot of people that debuff. So she's really not going to get the 15 P attack all that often. You can debuff with Tyre, but realistically, yeah, there's not really anybody that debuffs. So you're not always going to get everything. It's roguelike. This is very good on Tyre, extraordinarily. The HP and the magic attack is very good for him. And I'll just stick the Sorcerer's Hat on him. Realistically, I mean, he's not going to be hit by anything. Maybe we'll put this on Gloria. Gloria might be getting in there because she's going to throw her lance on the ground. I don't really think that Tyre is going to be getting in there, so there's really no point for him to have that right now. So hopefully you can kind of see what my thought process is as I go through different things in this. In the next video, we will go through the rest of what's left on the main screen. We will do a quest, and we will start our weekly rotation. So thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. There will be more sort of Convallaria content until this playthrough is done. And then I'll probably be doing some more games and posting them in the future weeks. I try to do 3 or 4 videos a week. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.